Good morning, good evening. Okay, good evening everyone. सर हमारे लिए तो मॉर्निंग ही है ना? एग्जाम्स हैं 2 महीने बाद. There is no time when to get up, when to sleep. Am I right? Some people have arrived quite before time. Nice to see that. And what about others? Are you here with me for a new chapter? After the topics of automated environment, sampling, analytical procedures. This is the most interesting, most important, and most practical chapter we are going to take up today. Audit of items of financial statements. So, kind of a chapter which simultaneously takes up accounting as well, hand by hand, hand in hand. How many of you are excited for this chapter? I suppose this is the longest chapter in your module as well, in your syllabus, audit of items of financial statements. Okay, let us have a healthy conversation before we start with the chapter. So how has the journey been till now? Till chapter 8. मैंने गुड मॉर्निंग के बाद गुड इवनिंग बोला, यहाँ पे गुड आफ्टरनून वाले भी है. ओके, ठीक है. Whatever you like. There is no bar for students who have their exams in coming 2 months. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, सब मिक्स हो ही जाता है. Initial 5 minutes, let us talk about your subject. Aditi says, sir, I saw the last attempt question paper and find out that questions are coming within lines. How to retain it? What happens is in school, we used to like prepare for fill in the blanks, match the following and correct, incorrect, give reasons why, something, these kinds of exercises. So those exercises were from lines. But when you talk about audit, these are not lines actually. Okay, these are not lines, these are the concepts. For you these are lines, that there is a topic, उसके अंदर 3-4 lines दी हुई हैं, आपने पढ़ लिया, and you prepare for only descriptive questions. ये question आएगा 4 marks में, we have to give answer. I'll take up one question paper for with you, right? How do you find the question paper? And I'll make you locate the question in your module as well. At the end of this chapter, I'll take up, or wherever possible, even during this chapter as well, wherever possible, I'll take up a question paper with you. We'll discuss the questions belonging to this chapter or any previous chapter, right? And we'll see how many questions have come from lines within and how many are based upon concepts. Audit is a hard subject for the students because they try to cram it, and where they don't try to cram it, they generalize it. Basically, it is a professional subject. Auditors, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, they are your alma mater. Audit is our, something which is really, I would say, the prioritized subject. And you cannot generalize it or just cram it. Oh yes, Mr. Raghavan, it is completely fine. It's been only 8 chapters. If you maintain a proper schedule available on YouTube, all the classes recorded, you can have to work hard a bit more, burn the midnight oil, as they say, and you'll be able to catch up. Today's our chapter 9 is completely based upon accounting. So it will not be hard for you to understand justify your queries from the question paper as much as possible. Yeah, I can see the emojis, the happy emojis as well. Okay, so any other general query or any other thing, any other concern you want to share with me? So how many of you are practical oriented and how many of you are theoretical oriented? See, today we are going to do activities as well. I'm going to check how many of you are actually alert. Because you can watch me, I cannot lie down on a bed, but I'm not able to watch you. So somebody is attending the class on mobile and somebody is lying on bed and attending the class. So there is going to be a game or an activity today. This chapter is something which requires quite alertness and your attention. So you have to be very much with me through the query session. The people who will be interacting with me through the query session, they'll be a part of the game or the activity only. बाकी सब रह जाएंगे. Okay. So yeah. So I asked a question, how many of you are people who like the practical subjects more and who like the theoretical subjects? We have people from all over India over here and I'm receiving just 2 or 3 answers. Are you people there? I cannot see you, but please make your presence felt. Okay, Miss Iyer says it depends upon the subject. Miss Sai Lakshmi is, okay, sir, we are ready. The Josh is high. Come on with the activity. Okay. Okay, Manchu, I'll have to rely upon whatever you say. Okay. Okay, Bindu says practical subjects. Done. Chali. So following the sequence of your module, study material, first chapter you did was of basic auditing principles, right? Basic audit. Second is okay. I'll come up to that, Pooja. Please preserve your query. I'll come up to that. Second, your audit planning, audit program. As a chartered accountant, I must be well versed with the concept of audit, the basics, chapter 1. Then second was your audit planning, audit program. And the third was I had to be very much, I have to be very much particular with how do I plan my audit, what procedure should I cover and everything. Third was audit evidence, very important because I'm an auditor. An auditor is a watchdog and not a bloodhound. In the case of Cotton Kingston Mills, right? If you have read about it, so the watchdog needs to be prepared with the proof as well. So audit evidence is really important. Then we had risk assessment and internal control. Okay. Then okay. So risk assessment and internal control. Then we come up to the organization. First of all, हमने अपने आप को prepare किया. We prepared ourselves with the knowledge of audit. The first 3 chapters. Then we went to the auditing, risk assessment and internal control. Applying our basic principles of basic knowledge of audit, we checked the internal controls and we assessed the risk of material misstatement, our risk assessment work. Fine. Then 5th was a chapter of frauds, a chapter which was like a filler where You get to know about fraud and all the legal implications. How can fraud be committed? What are the reasons for frauds? Everything. Sixth was a technical chapter, automated environment, because you have read about normal environment. Risk assessment and internal controls in a normal environment, right? It could be paper-based, it could be with less computers. But when it comes to automated environment, much of the work increases. No doubt you get the help of technology as well, but again, you have to be quite specific with automated environment. Then audit sampling, wow. Audit sampling works like a magic. You read about audit sampling because you are an individual, like you cannot cram or read each and every word from the book for your exam. In the same way, an auditor cannot check each and every transaction. It is quite cumbersome for him or her. So they've come up with a standard on sampling, audit sampling, whereby they give you techniques, and if you know about audit sampling, the audit work becomes a bit easier. Then another tool, analytical procedures, chapter 8, very important. And if you feel like you are doing the subject of financial management, when you're talking about analytical procedures, it seems like you're doing a practical subject, analytical procedures, right? So this is what were the basics of audit. Till chapter 8, you have covered the first phase. Today, you are going to enter the second phase. Whatever you have read, understood, and learned in chapters 1 to 8, we have to apply that from today onwards. Chapter 9, your financial statements, normal financial statements. Chapter 10, company audit. Then chapter 11, 12, and 13. 11 is audit report, 12 and 13 are banking. Then you'll apply starting from an easier level. Normal financial statements, then you proceed to company, then to banking, then to many other kind of entities. So whatever you have learned, you have to start applying from today onwards. Okay, this is how you study audit. This is what is the sequence of audit. Okay. So let us start with our chapter for the day. I hope you all can see the screen. Is the screen visible? Just let me know. Any one person? Okay, our chapter is chapter 9, audit of items of financial statements. Okay. Done. So the study sequence, we'll understand the chapter, the topics, then we'll use this presentation. Okay, I've divided the chapter into some parts. We'll be covering those parts as per our sessions, and then I would say that at proper intervals, I'll be sharing the notes with you. For example, for today's, whenever is our class scheduled, I'll share the notes after that class. Okay. So if there is anything which you people require me to put it in the notes, or which you require any amendments or any mistakes I could see in my work, my presentation, we could update it, right? And then only I'll upload the notes for you. So for today's session's notes, I'll upload it by tonight or by tomorrow morning. Then Practice questions, but obvious. MCQs, correct, incorrect, case studies, and descriptive questions. We'll definitely try to cover up some case studies like we did in chapter 6. Okay. So you'll have 1 or 2 tests as well. I know this sounds a bit weird. How can you say take tests? You cannot see us. But still, we can communicate via the query session. So there will be tests as well. I'll place my trust upon you, right? I'll rely on you. Then, as usual, the summary at the end of the chapter. And as Aditi asked, how do we write audit? As I told you that I'll be taking up a question paper definitely. Okay, so financial statements, right? What actually are financial statements? Sir, financial statements are balance sheet, profit and loss, right? So what do we used to do? We used to prepare a trading account, opening stock, purchases, sales, closing stock, GP. Or you have somewhere here direct expenses as well, right? Then you have P&L account, the GP, then the indirect expenses, then the NP. The income statement, if I'm right, then what do we have? The balance sheet. Capital, liabilities, assets. This is a balance sheet. Then we have cash flow statement. I hope you all are done with this concept of cash flow statement. Cash flow or to operating activities, financing activities, investing activities, and the notes and disclosures. This is what financial statements are. Okay. And if it is a case of a company, then statement of changes in equity. Done. Basically, this is all you know about it. Fine. So basically, financial statements are really important. But how do financial statements help the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders? The investors, the lenders, the owner, the government. Why are we auditing the financial statements? What is the need? Why can't you just rely on whatever the software gives you? Why is that audit required? So we have divided this chapter into 4 parts. Part 1 would be general. We'll understand what is the financial statements audit, then how are financial statements prepared, then the assertions part. You might have covered assertions in your chapter 1, but we'll be dealing with them in detail over here. The whole chapter is based upon assertions. Assertions is the ground for this chapter. Make your foundation strong. The building of this chapter would have good strength. We'll take up the general part and then we'll move to part 2, statement of profit and loss. Then we'll have part 1 is general, part 2 is statement of profit and loss. Then we'll move to the balance sheet. And last part, some miscellaneous topics from this chapter. It is always advisable that whenever you study a chapter, if you're not able to remember the concepts or when you revise the chapter, you're not able to recall, उसको parts में divide कर लीजिए. हमेशा as many parts as possible, but not much. Like the branches of a tree, divide that chapter into parts. Some logical parts, not like this you are dividing every page on the number of basis of pages. 10 पेज आज करूंगा, 10 पेज कल पढ़ूंगा, 10 पेज day after tomorrow. 30 pages chapter खत्म कर दूं. No. Your brain follows some sequence, right? So always give it a logical sequence. If a topic is being concluded at page number 7 or 7.5, no need to do those extra 3 pages. If those 3 pages belong to the topic, which can be done another day all by itself. So some logical divisions and logical groupings of the chapter. Like we have done, we have divided the whole chapter into part 1, general, part 2, statement of profit and loss, part 3, balance sheet, and part 4, miscellaneous. Now I've subdivided these general into 3 parts, profit and loss into 6 parts, balance sheet into 8 parts, and then the miscellaneous one. This is how you are able to complete that chapter. Boon boon se ghada bharta hai? Nahi. Right? Boon boon samandar. Every region has its own. Okay. Financial statements audit. What are basically financial statements? Just normal meaning. This is not written anywhere. That's a Wikipedia or Google meaning. Written record. So this is something which is not verbal. You have to present it in a written form. Written records that convey, tell us the business activities and the financial performance. So basically, first of all, they tell us the activities, what activities have been done by the business. By reading the financial statements, we can get to know what activities, to what extent, how strong activities, business activities have been carried out by the firm or the company. And then we apply our financial, mathematical, statistical techniques, analytical procedures on those financial statements to judge, to get the financial performance of that business, of that company, how well that particular business is doing. Only possible because of financial statements. In financial statements, what do we have? Income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. Income statement tells us about the financial performance. How well has the business performed? How well were the earnings? Balance sheet tells us about the financial health. Kitni jaydad hai. Financial health is how healthy, how strong, how rich is the company. What a company owes and owns. What is the debit and credit, right? What are the ownerships and what are the liabilities? Kitni assets, kitni liabilities hai. In layman language, kitni lendari, kitni dendari. And cash managers, the cash statement tells us about the cash management. So the cash inflow and cash outflow. Kitna cash aaya, kitna gaya. How cash rich is the organization. So basically, what is a financial statement audit? A financial statement audit is an audit that comprises the examination of an entity's financial statements and accompanying disclosures with respect to whatever is stated in the financial statements, accounting policies, notes to accounts, and other relevant disclosures by an independent auditor. The auditor should in not be related to the entity. Independent auditor, resulting in a report by the auditor. If it has examined the financial statements, the auditor will give a report. What will the report state? Attesting to means the auditor will attest, certify whatever he has checked, the truth and fairness. That what is the meaning of truth and fairness? You have read in chapter 1. The financial statements are free from material misstatements. If you remember, we did control deficiency, significant deficiency, and material weakness, material misstatement. Misstatement is different and material misstatement is different. Material misstatement is more grievous. So the financial statements are free from material misstatement, truth and fairness of presentation of the financial statements and related disclosures. So this is what a financial statements audit is as done by the auditor. So why are financial statements so important? Why do we require the audit of financial statements? Let's see that.
Welcome to Edge Accounting, where we're passionate about financial education. Today's video is an overview of financial statement information. Accounting is based on rules, and just like a football game, if you don't know the rules, you won't know what's going on. Accountants play a key role in constructing the financial statements. Each statement is a scorecard that gives insight into the health of the company. Is the company making money? How does it obtain and use funds to run the business? And how does the money actually move around? Investors and analysts use the financial statements to decide on investments. Managers use them to run their business, and creditors use them to decide on making loans. Auditors act like policemen who make sure the rules are being followed, as well as ensuring that enough information is given so that readers can understand them. You have to understand which story each statement tells, and you will have to understand that depending on where the information is placed on the statement is important too. The accounting equation tells you how all the assets were obtained. Was it from taking out loans, selling ownership, or using earnings to buy things? This is the balance sheet. The income statement shows how much income is left over after you subtract expenses from your sales. Understanding how cash flows through the company gives insights into whether the company collects money from customers, how it pays its debts, and where it invests. By understanding the rules, you will be able to make better investing decisions, increase your management insights, and be a better overall business person. Thanks for listening. Here's to making better decisions based on better data and better education.
Okay, to start with, basis of preparing financial statements. So companies prepare their financial statements in accordance with the framework. You have read about framework, FRF, Financial Reporting Framework. Whatever law is applicable to your industry or to your business, as per that law or the general financial reporting framework as followed in your country. And the framework is of generally accepted accounting principles known as the accounting standards. Indian GAAP. Generally accepted accounting principles. Indian GAAP, they are known as accounting standards. What are accounting standards? Written form of statements which consist of rules. Rules is you have to follow whatever is written. Principles, siddhant, which are usually universal, and guidelines to be used consistently. Consistently means lagatar, year after year, and uniformly. Uniformly means same for every transaction and event. It is not possible that for some expenses you are following accrual basis of accounting, and for expenses you are following cash basis of accounting. It has to be uniform, only one basis of accounting throughout your financial statements. For the preparation and presentation, first a thing is prepared and then it is presented, right? You cannot eat whatever your mom prepares in the kitchen directly from the utensil in which it is cooked. Direct cooker या कढ़ाई में से नहीं आप खा सकते. It is presented in a plate. You take it in a bowl or a plate and then you eat it. In the same way, the financial statements have to be prepared and then have to be made presentable by the business entity. These accounting standards lay down the accounting policies and practices. What is policy? Policy is basically a principle, a convention that has been followed since time. It has become a practice. So when and how the financial transactions should be measured, recognized, and disclosed in the books of accounts of an entity. These standards are usually issued by any accounting body or regulatory authority, sometimes by the government as well. In India, the Accounting Standards Board, ASB, of the ICAI has framed and issued these standards. But मैं standards की बात कर रहा हूँ, accounting standards की, so I get confused. People talk about AS, Ind AS as well. बहुत सारे standards हैं, AS, Ind AS, auditing standards, and if you are done with the subject of income tax, there are ICDS, income computation and disclosure standards as well. So can somebody tell me the difference? AS, Ind AS, and anyone? They say that financial statements are prepared on the basis of accounting standards. What about it? We have accounting standards, right? Okay, secretarial standards for CS, cost accounting standards as well, right? While in cost, you use cost accounting standards, then secretarial standards in companies, secretarial practice. So at our level, at your level, you are done with accounting standards. Auditing standards. And the third is income computation and disclosure standards. These are a part of your syllabus. Yes, right, Aditi, updated version. So in accounting standards, we have AS and Ind AS. In auditing standards, you have SA. This is something which is new, just a few years back. So this is followed while you prepare the income tax return. You take up the profit as per the books of account. And if any amendment is required as per income tax, we follow income tax computation and income computation and disclosure standards. So this is a part of tax. Auditing standards we are doing in audit. But this chapter requires the use of financial statements, and the financial statements are based upon AS and Ind AS. Now, why do two stacks of standards, AS and Ind AS? Hitesh, I say prepares it accounting standards, not with the help or guidance with MCA. MCA prepares its own standards. MCA is Ministry of Corporate Affairs. For companies, it uses these standards and issues its own standards. They are 98% the same, 2% variation in one or two standards. So they're prepared by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India only. The government body MCA uses it as a base to come out with its own corporate standards, accounting standards for the companies, the corporate entities. Okay? I hope I'm clear, Hitesh. Okay. Indias have also been prepared by ICAI only. Okay, I'll give you a brief overview. So what happens is that first, every country is having its own standards. Like in Europe, usually IFRS as follows: in International Financial Reporting Standards. US, they have their US GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. In India, we had AS. Okay. What was happening due to globalization and an increasing culture of MNCs? Businesses were having offices at these places. When they were limited to only one country, it was completely fine for them using these standards. But what happened when they had their branches, subsidiaries in other countries, European country having their branch in India, Indian country or firm having their branch in Europe? What happened was there were some differences. And IFRS is something which was being followed by almost many countries throughout the world. A need was felt that among this increasing culture of MNCs, we need to update our accounting standards on global lines. So keeping in view with the IFRS and bring about a uniformity in accounting. A uniformity in accounting with almost similar or accounting standards on similar lines. India, ICAI came up with Ind AS. Ind AS were Indian accounting standards updated in line with IFRS. Fine? Yes, recommended, Karthik. Done? Okay. So what happened was when these were approved by the Indian government, they were approved by the Indian government, then they have been implemented in stages. So what stages? AS and Ind AS are simultaneously being followed by different entities. All the listed companies at present have to follow Ind AS, Indian accounting standards. They have no relation with the accounting standards which were originally placed. There are some unlisted companies as well. A monetary limit has been fixed. A monetary limit has been fixed with respect to one of the criteria. I'll not share that criteria or something like that. This is something which is not required. They are required to follow Ind AS. In दोनों के अलावा, except for these two, unlisted companies with the monetary limit and all listed companies, they have to follow Ind AS while preparing their financial statements. All other companies and all other corporate and non-corporates have to still follow the AS. In a time to come, at an appropriate time, they'll be made applicable for all the organizations. These Ind AS will be made applicable for all in steps, not readily. So till that time, AS will serve the purpose. Okay. So while we on the international lines, we have prepared Ind AS being followed in steps in our country. Some of the IFRS were so good, we just adopted them as it is. 2 or 3 IFRS. So we are just following them directly, and our version of accounting standards Ind AS. That is the only thing you need right now. You need to know right now. Okay? Fine. Let's move ahead. So we are done with what is the financial statements audit? What are the bases of preparing financial statements? Yes, sir, we studied this in accounts. थोड़ा याद आ रहा है. वो पढ़ते कहाँ हो आप लोग? वो accounting standards का इतना बड़ा प्यारा होता है, कैसे बनती है, क्या होता है? Just read ही करते हैं. But that is quite interesting. तो कोई लगता है सर ये क्या important है, इसमें से क्या question पूछेंगे? But it is quite interesting. The history, how are accounting standards prepared and everything. So worth a read. अगर किसी ने नहीं पढ़ा है तो they should. चलिए next. The third subpart from the general, assertions. Assertions is something which is quite easy, quite common, but a word, something new for you. You have read about it in chapter 1. For people who are comfortable with the Hindi meanings and all, I have tried to put in the Hindi meanings wherever possible. So with assertions, this is दावा करना, claim, निश्चय पूर्वक कथन. And the meaning of assertion is, what are assertions? Assertions refer to the representations. The representations by the management. Who makes these representations? The management. Explicit or otherwise. Explicit means directly, सीधे तौर पे कह देना. You and your friend are up for an evening stroll. घूमने गए हैं market में, and your friend stops. You stop at a tea point. He orders a cup of tea. It is but obvious that yes, you have to order 2 cups of tea because you'll also be having it. It is but obvious, implicit. You don't have to tell him, भाई मेरी भी चाय बोलनी है. And suppose there is something that he is eating along with tea. So it happens that you might have to tell him, बोलकर, बताना, That is explicit. Directly bolkar batana, I'll also have this. So something which is told directly, that is explicit, or otherwise which is actually understood, that is implicit. Two different versions. Explicit is stating clearly, stating directly. Implicit is which is obvious, understood. That are embodied in the embodiments, a part of the financial statements used by the auditor to consider different types of potential misstatements that may occur. How does the auditor use that assertion? Okay. Purnima, that is something which is for the people who want to know the meaning in Hindi. You can just ignore that. Okay, just don't pay attention to whatever Hindi is written over there. It is for those people who struggle with the meanings. If told in Hindi, they'll definitely be able to remember it for long. So how is it possible that how does the auditor use it to different types of potential misstatements? We'll see that. How does the auditor use it? For example, while auditing the financial statements in the profit and loss, you get to see that the entity has charged scooter expenses. Scooter expenses or the car expenses. Fine, car expenses. I say something which is usually, you can say 10% of the total expenses. This is a high amount, a high fraction, 10% of total expenses. If total expenses are somewhere around 25 lakhs, the car related expenses are 2,50,000. It could be car insurance expense, car repair expense, petrol expense if it not put under a different head. So the auditor finds that the management has claimed that we spent 2,50,000 money on expenses related to car. Okay? I have to check this claim. So while checking this claim, what happened when I was going through the financial statements, I stopped at fixed assets. There was no car. किसकी गाड़ी के खर्चे किए भाई? For whose car did you spend this amount? There is no car in your fixed assets. How is that possible? Even if it is quite an old car, right? It might have been there at its scrap value as required. But there is no car. So this is something which the auditor uses, that you have claimed car expenses, but there is no car. Now justify it. Do you take car on hire? Do you take the neighbor's car? Or do you take your own car and this is just a reimbursement? Maybe personal. So this is something which you have to ask. It could be personal. So is there an agreement between your firm, if you are not a proprietor with the company, that yes, we'll reimburse the car expenses to our employees if they use their own car? You might have read about it in perquisites. This is how we check the claims. If there is no car, there is no agreement, no perks being given. So this expense seems to be fake. This is what an auditor has to unearth. So what is an assertion? Basically, for example, if company X's balance sheet shows building with carrying amount of rupees 50 lakhs. The carrying amount is 50 lakhs. The auditor shall assume that what will the auditor infer? That the management has claimed or asserted, दावा करती है, claim that the building recognized in the balance sheet exists at the period end. If it is shown in the financial statement, it is there. It is not floating somewhere in the air or there is no building. I have to assume and I'll check for it. Actually, there is a building. The company owns and controls such building. The company has the ownership rights and it controls whatever is happening within that building. The building has been valued accurately in accordance with the measurement principle. You all have read about measurement principles, historical cost, current cost. Whatever principles you follow, you have to value it accordingly. All buildings owned and controlled by company X are included within the amount of rupees 50 lakh. If there is a particular head of buildings in your fixed assets and that is the only head where you find buildings, so that doesn't mean you can put any one building over there and say, yes, this is our building. I assume that whatever you have presented and disclosed to me, it is complete in all aspects. 1, 2, 3, whatsoever be the number of buildings the company owns, it has been aggregated and put under the relevant head buildings. This is what, as an auditor, I will assume. This is what assertions is. Okay? So, preparation of financial statements is the responsibility of the management. Very important and auditor savvy line. Preparation of financial statements is a responsibility of the management. We have to just audit it. In preparing financial statements, company's management makes implicit or explicit claims or assertions regarding. Implicit, explicit, I've written in Hindi, whosoever wants to know the exact meaning. We have covered implicit means obvious, understood, indirect. Explicit means stating clearly. Not understood, you have to state clearly. So these kinds of assertions regarding completeness of that underlying assertion, cutoff, existence or occurrence, valuation or measurement, rights and obligations, presentation and disclosure of what? Of assets, liabilities, equity, income, expenses, and disclosures. Like completeness. Completeness is for both. Assets, liabilities, income, expenses. Cutoff is for both. Assets, liability, income, and expenses. Existence, balance sheet items. Assets and liabilities. Occurrence, profit and loss items. Your revenue and expenses. Valuation, balance sheet items. Measurement of income and expenses, profit and loss. Rights and obligations, and presentation and disclosure. Okay? Fine till now? Now, what is completeness? What is completeness? Completeness means we are doing it one by one, the literal meanings, the general meanings. The quality of being whole or perfect and having nothing missing. As I told you, the building. So whatever is there in the building head, all the buildings have been covered. The head is complete in itself. ऐसा ना एक बिल्डिंग बुक से बाहर रह गई थी, ऐसे कैसे बाहर रह गई थी? How can you exclude one building that belongs to the business, not in the building head? It should be complete in all aspects. So whatever you are claiming in your financial statements, that should be complete. That is an assertion that it is complete in all aspects. Cutoff. Whether the transactions recorded have been recorded in the appropriate accounting period. You're not recording purchases in your trading account relating to 2 years back when there was an error of omission. And now you said, oh, yaad aa gaya, 2 saal pehle couldn't include this purchase. I'll include it today. The auditor will give his specific remarks in his audit report regarding this. Cutoff means whatever is being recorded, it is being recorded relating to an appropriate accounting period, the period for which the financial statements have been prepared. That is where your accrual and matching concept comes into force. We calculate prepaid expenses. We calculate payable, outstanding expenses. So we have to take care of this cutoff. Existence or occurrence. Existence means the asset or the liability actually exists. Occurrence, the particular expense or income has actually occurred during the year. It has happened. The building exists. Our loan in the bank exists. We paid salary of this much amount during the year. This is the proof. We got interest on our investments during the year. This is a proof of our income. That is existence and occurrence. Fine. So we are done with completeness. We are done with cutoff. We are done with existence and occurrence. Valuation and measurement. All figures represented in a financial statement are accurate and based upon proper valuation. So if we have a building, right? If we have a building, we have got a building constructed. So you'll have completion certificate. If you have purchased a building, you'll have the payment proofs. So that is what valuation, and for your expenses, the measurement. Rights and obligation. The company owns and has the ownership rights or usage rights to all recognized assets. Whatever assets and liabilities are there in the balance sheet, you have rights over those assets and you recognize those liabilities as your obligations. They are yours and they don't belong to a third party. They are the company's. What is the relevance of a third party's ownership or obligation in your financial statement? Then the last is presentation and disclosure. All appropriate information and disclosures are included in the company statements, and all information presented is fair and easy to understand. It should be in a legible format as per the law or as prevailing in your country, and it should be easy to understand. So 6 kinds of assertions. These assertions apply to each and every. The chapter is audit of items of financial statements. So we are going to check each and every item of the financial statements on the ground of these 6 assertions. Completeness, cutoff, existence or occurrence, valuation, measurement, rights and obligations, presentation and disclosure. This is a foundation of audit of items of financial statements. Okay. The building example, which we covered in the previous slide. Now come over here. The auditor assumes that the building recognized in the balance sheet exists at the period end. The assertion here given importance is existence. The auditor assumes that company X owns and controls such building. So rights over assets, this assertion. Rights over assets. Okay. The building has been valued accurately in accordance with the measurement principles. Valuation assertion. Historical cost as per the completion certificate. All buildings owned and controlled by the company are within the carrying amount. This is completeness assertion. Fine. Okay, any doubt till now? Please. Any doubt with respect to assertions? Yes, please. Assertions clear with everyone? Okay. So now we move to Statement of Profit and Loss, Part 2. Statement of Profit and Loss and assertions related to the items of profit and loss. So we have understood the assertions in general. What are those assertions? And now we are here with the assertions related to profit and loss items. So we'll give a brief overview of what the assertions mean in case of profit and loss. Karthik, individual basis. So each item, like we'll be covering the different items of profit and loss and balance sheet, and we'll be applying each and every assertion applicable on that particular item. I hope I'm clear, Karthik. So, occurrence. Transactions recognized in the financial statements have occurred and relate to the entity. So, if you have paid salary of 2 lakh rupees to Mr. X, you have actually, if you have recorded in the financial statements, you have actually given this salary to him. There should be underlying payment voucher or salaries voucher, something like that, documentary evidence which can prove that yes, you have given this salary, or something which speaks about it online, any electronic or documentary evidence. Any other example you can give me? Any other example, anything which has occurred? You have been preparing financial statements since you entered +1. Occurrence key example. Okay, let us do one thing. Fine, let us do one thing. When we come to statement of profit and loss, right? So let us play a team activity. Who all are in? I'll make two teams who all are in. And I'll ask you questions, you have to answer me. Who all are in for the activity? Just volunteer. I need a team leader and some team members. Okay, so we have Mr. Banreddy, Aditi, Karthik, Himanshu, Sonika, Bindu, Gyani, Anita, and Hitesh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. Okay, so if anybody else comes, we'll make team of 5 people, right? So Khushi bhi aa gayi, Siddharth, Khushia, Sahu, and Pooja. Chaliye. So one One team is, we'll say, Team Karthik. Okay, we have Team Karthik. Team Karthik me will put Himanshu. So please remember, Team Karthik me we have Himanshu, we have Bindu, Anita, Khushi, Pooja. Okay, and then we have Team Aditi. Team Aditi, and in Team Aditi, we have Mr. Banreddy, Sonika, and Gihani, Hitesh, Purnima, Siddharth. And Khushia, you are in Team Karthik. Okay, that's it. We have got our teams. Now we'll study these assertions. What is the activity? And we'll study these terms, and I'll give you some statements, some expenses. And you have to tell me to which assertion they belong to. Okay? You have to tell me to which assertion they belong to. The team that any team member that answers first, that team wins the score. So for the next 5 minutes, I'll read out the assertions and then we'll play the quiz. And let's see which team wins. Okay, Shri Ram, find yourselves, please suit yourself comfortably in Team Karthik. Okay? Yes, Shri Ram, Team Karthik. And Namrata, Team Aditi. Fine? Okay, I hope I haven't left anyone. Done? Okay. Chali. So, occurrence. Transactions recognized in the financial statements have occurred and relate to the entity. Completeness. All transactions that were supposed to be recorded have been recorded in the financial statements. Transactions have not been omitted. There is no error of omission. There is no error of omission. What could it be? You forgot to include one purchase bill. The financial statements would be incomplete. Cut off, we did it. Whether all income and expenses are reported in the correct accounting period. Cutoff is a separate assertion because the substantive procedures to verify it are typically different that are applied to other components of completeness. If I am checking the purchases, if I am auditing the direct expenses, I'll ask for the expenses file belonging to that particular accounting period. I'll apply my substantive procedures on that accounting period's file. That accounting period's vouchers I'll be checking. So if some other period's bills are included in that particular accounting period, and or some of the bills belonging to that accounting period are not there in that particular file, there is going to be a disturbance in the financial statements. That would not be true. That would not be complete. That is cut off. Fine. Like I told you about purchases. I told you about different expenses of prior periods. Measurements. Transactions that have been recorded accurately at their appropriate amounts in the financial statements. There have been no errors while preparing documents or in posting transactions to the ledgers. For example, measurement. You have an expense, for example, you have an expense of right. I told you about car expenses. 10,000 plus 18% GST, 1800. We have a bill, we have an invoice. So my expense comes out to be 11,800. While charging it in the profit and loss, I have to use 11,1800. This GST portion, right? This GST portion, this is available as ITC in many of the expenses. ITC is input tax. You can use this particular tax to pay your output liability. You might have read about it in GST. But in the same GST, you would have read that in the case of vehicles, this is a blocked credit. It is not available. Or if it had been a different expense, we would have booked it in the profit and loss at 10,000, and we have taken credit of this 1800 in GST. But since it is an expense that relates to car and it is a blocked, it is expenses related to vehicles not allowed, GST on these expenses. So in my profit and loss, I will book it at 11,800 because I cannot take the credit of this GST. I'll not book it at 10,000. I'll book it at 11,800. Had it been any other expense, जिसका GST का credit मुझे मिलता है, मैं ये 1800 दिस अलग कर देता, 1800 अलग कर देता और अपने expense इस पे book करता और इसका credit लेता अपनी GST की output liability. So as a principle of measurement, assertion में I'll have to check if it is 11,800, whether all items, whatever needs to be included in this particular item, all sub items, all expenses have been properly included. Presentation and disclosure. So transactions have been classified. Direct expenses under direct, indirect expenses under indirect. There was always a confusion when you used to prepare final accounts. Wages kahan aayegi, salary kahan aayegi. If it was wages and salary, you will put it in trading account. If it was salary and wages, you will put it in indirect expenses in the profit and loss account. The same is the case here. Presentation, classification, that should be proper. They should be properly segregated or disaggregated. If something requires disaggregation, it requires its components to be listed. So with a proper heading, that should be disaggregated. This is very much important because disclosures are more susceptible to material misstatements, something which needs to be disclosed but not disclosed properly. Okay, with the proper description, you'll have to disclose. Fine. Okay, Sneha. Sneha, you choose your team, whether team Karthik or team Aditi. Okay? Just message me whichever team you want to be in, team Karthik, team Aditi. So we are ready for the game. Okay? Here we are, the assertions. Team Karthik and Team Karthik's members are Himanshu, Bindu, Anita, Kushi, Pooja, Kushia, and Shriram. Team Aditi's members are Banreddy, Sonika, Gehani, Hitesh, Purnima, Siddharth, and Namrata. And Sneha, whatever team you are on site, you just have to message me. Let you be the surprise element. Okay, so my first question. Let us see who answers first and I'll be marking. You have to tell me which assertion is this. Okay? ध्यान से सुनना. Employee benefit expenses in respect of all personnel have been fully accounted for. Employee benefit expenses in respect of all personnel have been fully accounted for. They have been fully accounted for. Answers. Whoever answers first, their team gets the mark. Okay, the answer is completeness and the point goes to Siddharth. Team Aditi. Okay, if you are answering and you find you're not getting marks, तो यहाँ पे टाइम आ रहा है मेरे पास कितने आर कितने मिनट पे आपने रिप्लाई किया है. Okay, so if there's a tie, I'll let you know. Otherwise, even with a fraction of seconds, teams are going to lose and teams are going to win. Completeness is the answer. क्या कर रही हो पूजा? Okay, सबने आंसर सही दिया, सबने. Okay, okay. Fine, you just have to write the answer. You don't need to write your team. I have noted your names. Whoever is answering, I am giving them a score in front of their name. Okay, we'll total it at the end of the quiz. So just be a bit alert and be a bit fast while answering. So Siddharth scores the first point for Team Aditi. Okay, next assertion. Sales shall include the dispatch of goods made at the year end as they belong to the relevant period. Sales shall include the dispatch of goods made at the year end as they belong to the relevant period. Only one person has answered till now. क्या हुआ बाकियों को? Sales shall include the dispatch of goods made at the year end as they belong to the relevant period. Where I got the word relevant period, they belong to the relevant period. मुझे समझ आना है that it is talking about the appropriate accounting period. It is cut off. And the point goes to Siddharth again, Team Aditi. There was a margin of 1 minute this time. 1 minute, 7 seconds margin. Very good, Siddharth. Okay, next. Be alert. Recorded sales represent goods which were ordered by valid customers and were dispatched and invoiced in the period. Recorded sales represent goods which were ordered by valid customers and were dispatched and invoiced in the period. Karthik is asking, Bhai Siddharth, kiska network use kar rahe ho? Karthik wants to know. I would say the nation wants to know. Siddharth is quite fast. He's ready with the next answer as well. तुम सब मिलकर सिद्धार्थ को जिता दोगे आज? Be a bit fast. Okay. Right. क्या कर रहे हो हितेश श्रीराम? It is not cut off. Karthik Siddharth sales Airtel 4G. So the answer is occurrence. It is telling you that recorded sales representing goods, वो goods बता रही हैं that those were ordered by valid customers. Customers valid है, उन्होंने order किया था and वो dispatch हुई हैं and उनके invoices लगे हुए file में and invoiced in the period. That means the sales actually took place, occurred, or existence. Occurred for the profit and loss items and existence for the balance sheet items. Again, the point goes to Team Aditi, Siddharth, और इस बार सिद्धार्थ के बाद अदिति ने बताया. So there is no doubt Team Aditi gets this point. Right? Then what do we have next? Employee benefit expense has been incurred during the period in respect of the personnel employed by the entity. employee benefit expense has been incurred during the period in respect of the personnel employed by the entity. It does not include the cost of any unauthorized personnel. Good, 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 good. Somebody broke the record of Siddharth. It was a hat trick. Good, Himanshu. Good. It is occurrence. The first point for Team Karthik. First point for Team Karthik. Khata khula aapka. Answer Himanshu. It is occurrence. It says actually employee benefit expense that has been incurred during the period in respect of personnel employed by the entity. जो काम कर रहे हैं the employees उनके लिए ये खर्चा किया गया है employee benefit expense. It could be salaries, it could be staff welfare, and it does not include any expense relating to any person who is unauthorized, who is not there on the record of employees register. So existence or occurrence. Fine. Next. All the genuine sales have been recorded. All the genuine sales have been recorded. I'll be a bit fast now, okay? All the genuine sales have been recorded. Good. Yes. All, where comes all have been recorded? Completeness. And point goes to Team Aditi. And Himanshu as well. That is a tie. The Aditi and Himanshu gave answers at the same time. So both the teams get marked for this one. Completeness. There is the word all. Yes. And I suppose everybody is given the right answer. Yes, Aditi, Himanshu, Khushbu, it's not valuation, it's completeness. No Bindu, it's completeness. Sudhanshu, right. Mr. Mondal, right. Hitesh, Gyani, Sonika, Akash Neel, Purnima, Anita, Ban Reddy, Khushi, Gyani, Pooja, Jaya, Namrata, everybody given the right answer. Completeness. Okay. The next one. Employee benefit expense, it could be salary, has been calculated accurately. Salaries have been calculated accurately. Salaries have been calculated accurately. Hitesh, what are you doing? You have this on your screen. Yes, Siddharth, right. Aditi, right. Himanshu, right. With a difference of only 1 second. Siddharth, Aditi, Himanshu. Khushbu, why are you stuck to valuation only? Bandedi, right. Shriram, right. Sudhanshu, no. Bindu, no. Nelabju, right. Anita, right. Jaya, right. Karthik, you are the team leader. You cannot answer wrong. Akash Nil, right. Hitesh, Sonika, Shriram, Gyani, right. Pooja, right. Sneha, no. Hitesh, right. Okay. So salary has been calculated accurately. Measurement. That simple. Next. Sales are recorded correctly in the books based upon the invoices, discounts have been properly adjusted or accounted for. Sales are recorded correctly in the books based upon invoices. Discounts have been properly adjusted or accounted for. Mridula has answered right, but Mridula, you are not there in any team. So I'll give the mark to you, Mridula. Mridula has answered right. Siddharth. No, Himanshu. Nilabjo, Siddharth, correct. Mridula, correct. It is measurement. What is it? It says, on the basis of sales invoices, we have recorded the sales. So measured from sales invoices. And discounts have been properly adjusted. Discounts have been deducted from that sales value. So it falls under value measurement only. When it is talking about sales, invoices, discount, measurement recorded upon the basis of this. Yes, Purnima, Hitesh, Karthik, good. Aditi अब disclosure पे पहुंच गई. There could be one or two assertions at the same time, but we'll take up the most prominent one. Now, the last three. Time for you to score marks, Team Karthik. Revenue of the firm has been disclosed separately using sale of products, sale of services, and other operating revenues. Revenue has been disclosed separately as sale of products, sale of services, and other operating revenues. Which assertion is this? Come on. Team Karthik, fuck up. Good. सिद्धार्थ और अदिति ने ठानी है अपनी टीम को जिताना है इन्होंने. Good. Everybody answered correct. Everybody. Very good. Everybody answered correct. Presentation and disclosure. Okay. Next. Salary has been recognized during the period relating to the current accounting period only. Salary has been recognized during the period relating to the current accounting period only. Okay. Himanshu took the score this time again. Very good. So, Siddharth, Purnima, yes. Namrata, this is not presentation and disclosure. Period की बात हो रही है, current accounting period की बात हो रही है, वहीं से hint मिल जाता है that it is cut off assertion. Very good. Everybody has answered right. No, Sneha, that is not existence. No. Cut off. The last point to score. The salaries and wages. Be with me. The last point. The salaries and wages have been fairly allocated between operating expenses, general expenses. The salaries have been properly and fairly allocated between operating expenses like production activities, general expenses like administrative activities. So it relates to which assertion? I mean, you need not be sorry, Sneha. It's fine. We are just good. Proper disclosure and proper presentation. It said segregated and disaggregated. Here, we had this segregated and disaggregated. Presentation and disclosure. Okay, the winning team is Team Aditi with 7 points. 6 points. I'm sorry, 6 points. And Team Karthik scored 4 points. Well played, guys. Team Karthik scored 4 points and Team Aditi scored 6 points. Himanshu scoring the maximum points for Team Karthik and Siddharth scoring the maximum points for Team Aditi. So this task has been won by Team Aditi. Very good. In the next activity, whenever we plan such an activity, now I'll include everyone who is a part of the team and score will be counted on the whole individual member basis. So let's see which team wins then. We'll not consider the timing part, who answers first. We'll see who answers correct, how many members of the team answer correct. Because you have different networks now. Presentation and disclosure, no, Hitesh, no cutoff. Okay. Fine. Done. So this was assertions relating to profit and loss in brief. Now we'll start with profit and loss. The first half of our session with the basics is complete. In the second half, we'll be taking up the elements of profit and loss. And this session and the session day after tomorrow will be finishing with our profit and loss part. So part 1 of the chapter done, general. Part 2, profit and loss, will be starting up today. And we'll be completing up with the part 2 in the next session. Then for the further sessions, we'll be taking up the items of balance sheets. Some of you might feel that I'm going a bit slow, but this chapter is something which I cannot just walk away directly. Okay, this is, this is sales, purchase, I have to take care of every element. I have to take care of every student because some people might get to know some new things in this lecture or with this chapter that yes, this particular concept we never understood in accounts. Now, if we are auditing this particular item or this particular concept, we got to know this is the time to strengthen your accounting concepts. And if there is any left, you can take this opportunity to strengthen those concepts. Okay. So I've planned it accordingly and we'll take a break now. After the break, we'll come up with a business. We'll start a business over here. And I'll come up with a business model, and that business model will work throughout this chapter. Okay, we'll take up a trading account, a profit and loss account, a balance sheet, and we'll apply whatever we learn on that particular financial statement, the actual financial statements as the base. Okay, so let's take a break for 10 minutes. And then when we come back, the business, and we'll start with the elements of profit and loss. Okay? Chal. Okay. We are back after a short break. So, हिमांशु से सर मुझे एब्रीविएशन यूज करने चाहिए थे, अगली बार से हम कोड्स रख लेंगे. Siddharth is asking one more example of rights and obligation, please. Rights and obligations, Siddharth will be covering many examples when we come to the part of balance sheet items. But still, if you want rights, you can say bank account balance. We have a right. It is in the name of the company. The account statement is in the name of the company. We have right over that bank account. The person, the people authorized by the company to issue checks, deposit or withdraw cash from that bank account, that is a right. And obligation is something like, for example, you have your outstanding electricity bill. It is in the name of the company. You have to pay it. If you don't pay it, they'll cut your electric connection. So obligation is electricity bill. Okay. These kinds of example. Then Karthik says, "कई जगह हमारे answers गलत हुए. Can you please help in summarizing that concept in few lines?" Karthik मेरे भाई, अभी it is just a trailer. अभी picture भी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त. वो वाला dialogue I will use that. अभी तो we have just started. With I just wanted to make you perform this activity just to know the importance of assertions part. Assertions we have practiced by the way of this activity. We gave our time to this activity just to make sure that our foundation is strong. Now you have got to know that completeness, measurement, valuation, these are the assertions. Now, whatever you are going to study in this chapter, your brain will automatically point towards all these assertions. And in this manner, you'll be able to grasp the concepts more clearly. So it is just a start. I'll repeat the same activity with a twist at the end of the chapter during the last session. During the last session of this chapter, we'll repeat this activity with a twist, and then you will know how far you have traveled during these 6 sessions. Okay. Hints, Karthik, जैसे words use करे, completeness and all, period word, a relevant period word is being used, something which is telling you about the transactions happening, where aggregation, disclosed word is coming. These are the basic hints. But again, we cannot rely directly upon the hints. We have to understand the concept, the logic behind that particular statement. Only then we'll be able to get to the correct assertion. मुझे भी बहुत मजा आया नम्रता to play that activity. I was more amused while making you play. Next time we'll just improve the activity. Okay, chaliye. So moving ahead, we'll start with the statement of profit and loss, but I cannot read directly that sales may we have to do this and something, expenses may employee benefit expenses hai, and there are depreciation is there, something else is there. So I need some base, I need some example with me, and so do you. So let us start a business over here for this particular chapter. Okay, हम एक business start करेंगे, हम एक trading account, एक profit and loss account and financial reporting framework के हिसाब से balance sheet बनाएंगे, profit and loss बनाएंगे, और उस profit and loss को use करते हुए हम अपने जितनी assertions हैं सब पढ़ेंगे with live examples. Okay, and to start that business, I need to give you a base. एक स्टोरी होती है बिजनेस स्टार्ट करने के लिए, बिना स्टोरी की मजा नहीं आएगा ना. दैट स्पाइस रिक्वायर्ड टू स्टार्ट अ बिजनेस. सो जो हमारा बिजनेस है वो समझाने के लिए पहले हम एक छोटा सा बिजनेस आइडिया देखते हैं. बी विद मी, जस्ट एंजॉय द वीडियो. इट्स आई हैव इंक्रीज्ड द प्लेबैक स्पीड, सो पीपल हु enjoy in Hindi, they can very well enjoy because the audio is in Hindi. But bear with me, the people who don't know Hindi, you have English subtitles in that video. So that will make your understanding easier. Okay. You have to watch that video and then I'll tell you what our business is going to be over here. And with the help of that business, we'll start with our audit of financial statements from profit and loss. Okay, here we go. Right. So this is a case of two friends who are talking about investment, and one of the friends take the other friend to a local tea vendor and just listen to their amazing conversation and enjoy this video. After break, this is a treat for you, and then we'll again be back with our session.
Good morning.
A very good morning.
I hope I'm not late.
अरे नहीं मैं थोड़ा जल्दी आ गया.
I am very fascinated about compounding. I can also start investing. मुझे जल्दी से जल्दी अपने लॉसेस को कवर करना है और बहुत सारा पैसा कमाना है. अब मैं रुक नहीं सकता. I can't wait anymore.
Prateek, in the school called investing, you have only cleared your kindergarten. The main classes have not yet started. अभी तो तुम्हें बहुत कुछ सीखना है.
हाँ तो प्लीज बताओ ना मुझे. What all I have to learn? I want to start investing and start earning very soon.
The next thing to learn is about how businesses are run and how to understand and analyze them. जब तक तुम ये सब नहीं सीख जाते, इन्वेस्टिंग से दूर ही रहो तो अच्छा है.
Okay, then let's start. Tell me what all I should learn.
चाय पीते हो? Let's have some tea first.
No chai please. I've already done my breakfast.
अरे एक कप पी लेते हैं. चलो.
Okay fine.
श्याम सुंदर जी, कैसे हो?
सब बढ़िया है. बाकी आपके सिखाए हुए बातें बहुत काम आ रहा है हमको. बस एक रिक्वेस्ट है. थोड़ा हमको ना श्याम सुंदर वाशिंगटन रिटर्न बोला कीजिए.
अच्छा श्याम सुंदर वाशिंगटन जी, अब चाय पिला दीजिए प्लीज.
बैठिए बैठिए ना. ला रहे ना चाय. बिस्कुट भी लाए क्या? ये पहले वाशिंगटन में थे क्या? पहले? अभी तो हम गए नहीं है ना. मतलब?
अरे कुछ नहीं, किसी ने इन्हें बोल दिया कि अगर वॉशिंगटन में चाय बेचोगे तो बहुत पैसे कमाओगे. तो अपने श्याम सुंदर जी पहुंच गए अपना लगेज लेकर, पर ना तो उनके पास पासपोर्ट था और ना वीजा. सो रिटर्न कर दिए गए एयरपोर्ट से. बस तभी से अपने नाम के आगे इन्होंने वॉशिंगटन रिटर्न लगा लिया.
तो हुए ना हम वॉशिंगटन रिटर्न. कुछ गलत बोले हैं क्या?
प्रतीक, हाउ इज द टी? यहाँ की चाय बहुत फेमस है.
अच्छी है. इट्स गुड.
हाउ मेनी कप्स ऑफ टी डू यू थिंक श्याम सेल्स इन अ डे?
हाउ विल आई नो?
टेक अ वाइल्ड गेस.
Probably around 500 cups in a day, और शायद उससे कुछ ज्यादा भी. I'm not sure.
Not bad. Guess अच्छा था. चलो मान लेते हैं he sells on an average 500 cups of tea. So how much money does he collect in a day? Wait, श्याम सुंदर जी को ही बुला लेते हैं. श्याम जी.
श्याम सुंदर वाशिंगटन रिटर्न बोलिए.
ओके वॉशिंगटन रिटर्न जी. एक बात बताइए, आप एक दिन में कितने कप चाय बेच लेते हैं?
ऐसा कोनो फिक्स तो नहीं है. ये समझ लीजिए अच्छा से हो जाए तो 500-600 तक हो जाता है, और बढ़िया से हो जाए तो ज्यादा भी हो जाता है. आई थिंक एलेक्स ट्राइंग टू टीच मी समथिंग थ्रू दिस टी सेंटर. लेट मी हियर हिम प्रॉपर्ली.
लेट्स कंसीडर फॉर द सेक ऑफ कैलकुलेशन दैट ही सेल्स 500 कप्स ऑफ टी एट द रेट ऑफ 6 रुपए पर कप.
थोड़ा हिंदी में बोलिए ना. अंग्रेजी में इतना काहे सब गिर पिटाता है आप लोग. हमारा अंग्रेजी में ना हाथ और पैर दोनों बहुत कम है. एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ ₹6 पर कप अगर वो 500 कप्स डेली सेल करते हैं, सो इट मींस ही मेक्स अराउंड ₹3,000 पर डे.
अगर एक दिन में 3,000 हैं तो एक साल में कितना होगा बता सकते हो? लेट्स से ही वर्क्स फॉर 300 डेज इन अ ईयर.
इट मींस श्याम जी वॉशिंगटन अर्न्स 9 लाख रुपीस इन अ ईयर. 9 लाख? अरे बाप रे बाप. इतना पैसा तो हम कभी कमाए नहीं रे. ये पैसा सब जाता कहाँ है रे? यस, और नहीं तो क्या. दिस इज सो सिंपल. अब इतना तो मैं भी कैलकुलेट कर सकता हूँ ना.
This is where you're mistaken. Shyam's ₹9 lakh per year is not his profit that he takes home every year. It is the revenue of his venture. श्याम जी को बिजनेस चलाने के लिए खर्चे भी तो करने होते हैं. Thus, he takes home a much lower amount. तो खर्चे जो हैं वो कमाई कैसे हुए?
वही तो हम कह रहे हैं. इतना पैसा होता तो हम मोटरसाइकिल ना ले लिए होते.
But in your case, Prateek, ऐसा नहीं है. So if you earn 9 lakh, you take the entire ₹9 lakh to your home.
So, but can you explain me this in a simpler language?
Shyam is running a business under the name of Shyam Tea Center. There is only one thing that all companies, including Shyam's, make, and that is money. A car manufacturer will make money by selling cars, while a tea stall vendor will also make money by selling tea. Got it?
ये सब क्या बतिया रहा है? चाय, पैसा. सुनिए ना, इसमें बिस्कुट भी तो जोड़ लीजिए ना.
All we need to do as investors is to look for businesses that make the most money by investing the least amount of money. अब ऐसी जगह पैसा लगाने का क्या फायदा जहां रिटर्न कम मिलेगा?
समझ में नहीं आया गुरुजी, फिर से समझा दो एक बार।
अच्छा ठीक है, फिर से समझाता हूं, इस बार थोड़ा और आसान तरीके से। द फर्स्ट थिंग यू नीड टू नो इज दैट बिजनेस रिकॉर्ड एंड रिपोर्ट ऑल एक्टिविटीज इन 3 स्टेटमेंट्स इन देयर एनुअल रिपोर्ट। श्याम जी ऐसा नहीं करते होंगे, ये तो पक्का है, बट ऑल द कंपनीज दैट आर ट्रेडेड वो ऐसा करते हैं। अभी के लिए मान लो कि श्याम टी सेंटर एक लिस्टेड कंपनी है और वो अपने सारे स्टेटमेंट को फाइल करता है या उसका रिकॉर्ड मेंटेन करके रखता है। ओके, कैन यू टेक एनी गेस कि श्याम जी को अपना बिजनेस शुरू करने के लिए कितने पैसों की जरूरत पड़ी होगी?
75,000 रुपया लगाए थे हम, न 1 रुपया कम न 1 रुपया ज्यादा। 25,000 रुपया तो हम अपना लगाए थे, ज्यादा तो हम बचाए नहीं पाए थे ना। और बाकी जो है वो महमूद है, उससे उधार ले लिए थे। 50,000 रुपया दिया था हमको, बचपन का दोस्त है हमरा, ऐसा वैसा नहीं है कोई, समझ रहे हैं?
Great. Let me explain it this way. See, this amount of rupees 25,000 which was saved by Shyamji is called as equity capital or promoter's equity. And ये जो rupees 50,000 he borrowed is known as loan. Both these elements are part of balance sheet, one of the 3 statements that are filed. Balance sheet is a statement of asset, liabilities and capital of the business at any point of time. अब श्याम जी के केस में उनको शॉप पर ये सारी चीजें जैसे कि गैस स्टोव, सिलेंडर, यूटेंसिल्स एंड ग्लासेस among others form part of the asset. More specifically, they form part of the fixed asset part of the balance sheet. Loans, salary, या कुछ भी that the business owes or Shyamji has to pay will form the part of the liabilities.
And what about the proceeds of sale of tea? वो कहाँ शो होती है? Where do we show that?
It is the part of the profit and loss account, the second statement that the company reports. Proceeds of sale of tea is normally represented as the revenue. The company then deducts all running expenses जैसे कि raw materials, यहाँ पर होंगे जैसे tea leaves, milk, sugar, among other small things. Then Shyamji इस जगह का किराया देते होंगे वो, लेबर की सैलरीज, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल, वाटर चार्जेस एंड और भी खर्चे जो कि जरूरी हैं इस बिजनेस को चलाने के लिए।
So, after providing for all these expenses, what remains is Shyamji's profit, right?
There you are. You're partly right. What remains is called operating profit. Shyam Tea Center still has to pay for the interest of his loan and also provide for wear and tear of his equipment, which goes under the head of depreciation. और अब जो बचेगा we call it profit before tax. गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स भी तो देना पड़ेगा ना। Government would like to get their share from the business and charges the tax on the profit that remains after providing for all outgoes. और इसके बाद जो बचा उसको हम बोलते हैं प्रमोटर का प्रॉफिट। और प्रमोटर अपने एग्जांपल में है अपने श्याम सुंदर वॉशिंगटन जी।
चलिए कुछ तो आप हमारे लिए भी छोड़े, हमें तो लगा कि बस आज जो है ये लोग बैठा तो दुकान बंद है समझो। श्याम सुंदर ताला ढूंढ ले बेटा। What about the third statement that business reports?
उसको कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट कहते हैं, which can basically be calculated from the various components of the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. But this is perhaps the most important and least tracked statements by the investors, especially untrained investors. Cash flow statement of the company tells the actual money that a company collects from its sales and providing for all expenses. Let's assume there is a big client of Shyam's, a company जो कि रोज 100 कप ऑर्डर करती है इनकी शॉप से। As this is a big client for Shyamji और रेगुलर बिजनेस भी देते हैं, तो Shyamji is okay अगर वो हर 3 months में उसके बिल को क्लियर करते हैं। As per the law, the moment Shyam sells his tea, he is supposed to record it as sales and calculate the profit based on the input that goes in. So वैसे तो वो रोज 500 कप चाय का सेल कर रहे हैं और उसको प्रॉफिट और लॉस अकाउंट में रिकॉर्ड करते हैं, बट इन रियलिटी उनको सिर्फ 400 कप का ही पैसा मिलता है, जबकि स्पेंट मनी फॉर मेकिंग 500 cups of tea. This pending payment of 100 cups of tea is reported in the debtors section of the balance sheet. The cash flow statement takes into account this 100 cups of tea and the money blocked in the inventories. It also gives the business credit for the money it owes to its suppliers. Let me put this in a simple language. Cash flow statement से हमें ये पता चलता है कि श्याम सुंदर वॉशिंगटन जी को टोटल कितने पैसे बचेंगे. And this saved money which he gets is more important than the money जो कि शायद फ्यूचर में उन्हें मिले या फिर ना भी मिले.
हे भगवान, हमारा पैसा और कम कर दिए. इतना सब हम कमा रहे हैं, काहे सब हमारा पैसा आप ले रहे हैं भाई? इससे पहले कि आप हमारा पैसा और कम कर दें, हम तो चले भैया अपनी दुकान संभालें. जय गंगा मैया की.
मुझे लग रहा है आज के लिए ज्यादा हो गया. You do one thing. Read as much as you can on how to read and interpret company numbers. And once you are ready for this, we will move ahead in your learning for the next chapter, which is business and market cycles.
Yes, you're right.
Yes. So what all did you learn from that video? Come up with your answers, please. What all were the elements in that video? Shyamji Tea Center. He was explaining his revenue. He was explaining the costs involved, depreciation, financing costs. He explained very well the balance sheet elements, the profit and loss elements, and the cash flow statement as well. So, did you get whatever was told in that video? Or are you still in that video? I'm not receiving any replies. Yeah, Karthik, I'm really sorry. Shyamji Washington returned. Okay, now our business. Our business is Shyamji's business only. So with everything which that guy told him, Shyamji is really inspired. Okay? Shyamji is really inspired. Now he started working day and night, sold tea, and now he has set up a company. The company's name is Tea and Cookies Private Limited. Now, Shyamji is not selling any tea anymore. Shyamji is trading in different qualities of tea and other complementary confectionery items. His company has gone into this business, not making and selling tea, but trading in tea. This is the business which we are going to take care of in every part of our chapter. This video was really important. It's completely fine, Shriram. It's completely fine. It's basically two friends who were on a walk. They went to a tea shop and they were just talking about the margins, the expenses of that particular tea vendor, Shyamji. And now they inspired that particular tea vendor, Shyamji, and now Shyamji has set up a big company. So, as an auditor, I went to audit the financial statements of Shyamji's company, which is Tea and Cookies Private Limited. The management of Tea and Cookies Private Limited has provided me with the financial statements they have prepared. Remember, preparation of financial statements is the responsibility of the management. Right? And they have given me on Shyamji's pursual, they have provided me with the financial statements, the accounts department. So presenting you the financial statements of Tea and Cookies Private Limited. Since we'll be taking up the profit and loss. So here you go. This is the profit and loss, trading and profit and loss. I hope it is clearly visible to everyone. Tea and Cookies Private Limited, Kanpur. Trading and profit and loss count for the period from 1 April 2021 to 31st March 2022. Okay, a tip for all the people who are going to write their accounting exams. Trading and profit and loss account is always for a particular accounting period. And balance sheet is always at the end of a particular day. Okay. So when you write balance sheet is always as on. It could be 31st March 22. It could be 31st December 22. It could be 15th February 22. It could be 10 November 22. But balance sheet is always as on a particular day. And your income statement, trading profit and loss accounts, they are always for a period from this date to this date. Any accounting period. But it is always for a period. To never write income statement or trading and profit and loss account for the as on 31st March 2022. Or you have to write income statement for the year ended, for the whole year. Right? So this is a draft format of his income statement. For companies, you follow the vertical format as per the financial reporting framework. And we have that as well because it is Tea and Cookies Private Limited. This is just a working note. So just make you guys understand a draft profit and loss. And I have converted it, they have converted it into the financial reporting framework as well as per schedule 2. They have converted it and we'll take care of that as well. Right? Okay. So this is okay. Don't be worried about the Zoom issue and all. I'll take care of that. Abhi, you just see we have this. Okay, Miss Tiwari is from Kanpur. Aditi. Okay, Aditi. So let us allot the audit to you. Aditi is going to be the auditor. Fine. Okay. So what do we have? You can zoom your screens as well. We have normal, just be with me. We have sales. We have closing stock. We have opening stock. We have purchases. We have gross profit. We have discount in indirect incomes, interest income, and rent. So what happened was, Shyamji set up the company Tea and Cookies Private Limited, but he did not want to leave the tea making business. So what he told, he asked one of his employees or associates to continue running the tea making business in his name outside the company premises in a separate room or area. That room or area belongs to the company only. It is adjacent to the company premises, and Shyamji charges him rent. The rent is quite notional, quite normal, 1,80,000 per annum. Just for the sake and brevity of that, yes, somewhere here near me, somebody is making tea. Or if I want, I can go there and make tea myself. Okay, so that is the rental income Shyamji's company is getting, Tea and Cookies Private Limited. These are all indirect expenses over here. ये सारे indirect expenses हैं हमारे, and last में net profit निकालते हैं. Okay, अभी के लिए zoom is not required. Just get a glimpse of that income statement which Shyamji has given to us, to Aditi, Tea and Cookies Private Limited. Okay, we'll take one by one element from this particular income statement as given by Shyamji, and we will audit the financial statements of Tea and Cookies Private Limited with the help of this chapter one by one. We will start with sales at number 1. Then we will go to indirect incomes. So sales is our direct income. Then we'll go to indirect incomes. We'll finish this part. Then we'll come to the expenses side. Purchases, indirect expenses, depreciation, employee benefit expenses, and other indirect expenses. So in this way, we'll finish with the profit and loss part. Karthik, slip of tongue. I'm really sorry for that. Schedule 3. Okay. Here it is. The format. This format is for working only. From next year onwards, you are not going to find this format in the case of non-corporate entities as well, or from this year onwards itself. The institute has come out with the companies like format for the vertical format for non-corporate entities as well. The corporate entities have to follow the schedule in the Companies Act. The non-corporate entities were free to prepare their financial statements in any whatsoever manner possible, horizontal or vertical. But now the institute has come up with the vertical format for the non-corporate financial statement entities as well. And now they are also required to prepare their financial statements in a vertical fashion. This is the vertical manner. So whatever is recorded over there in that horizontal draft, it is over here. This is your statement of profit and loss. See, for the year ended. What is written over here? For the year ended. That means for the whole year. It is telling you about the duration for the year ended. Tea and Cookies Private Limited, Kanpur. Right? This is what it is. Now, what is it? 31st March 22, 31st March 21. This is your whole profit and loss. Revenue from operations over here, other income over here. Revenue from operations in case of Shyamji's company Tea and Cookies Private Limited, what could be the revenue from operations? Selling tea, selling confectionery, whatever cookies or other complementary stuff that goes with tea. What could be the other income? As I told you, rent, interest, discount, that was it. So that becomes your total income. Now expenses, Understand, and I presume that you all are well versed with this format. Cost of raw materials consumed. There are no raw materials because he's not making tea now. The tea making is a separate business, so this is just trading. Purchases of stock in trade, we'll see in the part of purchases when we take up purchases and audit them. What is in purchases? Then all this format, all expenses, then total expenses. Then comes profit, total revenue minus total expenses, profit before extraordinary items and tax, profit before tax, then provision for tax and other tax expenses, profit and loss after tax for the period. And at last, we have the basic EPS and the diluted EPS. This is the statement of profit and loss as given to me by Shyamji for Tea and Cookies Private Limited. Okay. Now, there are notes, accompanying these financial statements. So, revenue from operations, 13 number note. We have just the figure. What you do in your working notes while solving your accounting questions. What you do in your working note, you prepare notes are the same way. Note number 13 tells me about revenue from operations. Here is note number 13. Adjacent to this format, you have the notes as well. I placed it simultaneously. So in that note, we have sale of goods. You can disaggregate it over here, right? How much of tea, how much of cookies, how much of the other items. You can write separately in the notes as well. This is what we are going to take up today, sales. Okay. So we have taken the first element. We have started with serial number 1, revenue from operations, and revenue from operations, we have sales and other income. So, revenue from operations. In revenue from operations, we have sales and direct income, and we'll be starting with direct income today. Anything else? So let's move from the financial statement of Tea and Cookies Private Limited to its first element, sales. So, क्या कोई मुझे revenue cycle समझाएगा? क्या होता है sales का cycle? How does it work? You start a business. You invest cash. With cash, you purchase stock. Right? With stock, you have direct expenses plus a margin, and then you sell it. Okay? Then you sell it. Oh, sorry. Then it is a sale. Sell it. It is a sale. How is sale take place? There is this customer. Customer comes to you, the shop. Either he purchases goods, right? Either he gives you cash or he purchases the goods on credit from you. If he gives cash, that is a cash sale. If it is a customer, a dealer who you have entered into a credit agreement, then it is a credit sale. He says, I have an agreement with you. I always give you the money after 1 month of purchasing material from you. So there is cash sale and credit sale. So my revenue cycle is completed when I expended cash. When I expended cash expense, and when I received cash. This completes my revenue cycle. I used cash to purchase, I got cash. For example, I used 100, and after every direct expenses margin, I sold the commodity X, which I purchased at 100 at 150. This completes my revenue cycle. My revenue is 150. Now profit from revenue, I'll deduct my expenses, all kind of expenses, and then I'll get profit. This is one case of revenue cycle. Other case, when this was a credit sale. After 1 month, this customer A, this pays me the money for the goods he purchased from me, and I receive the cash after 1 month. So in the case of cash sales, my revenue cycle got completed on the same day when he purchased goods from me. In the case of credit sale, my revenue cycle got completed on the day 1 month after that date. Okay, this is what is a revenue cycle. So the sales and collections, collection is either you collect cash on the same date or you collect cash from the debtor. In this case, A became the debtor for 1 month because he purchased from you. It was a credit sale. He purchased on credit from you. So collections from the debtor. Cycle in a business refers to a set of processes that begin when a customer purchases goods or services and ends when the entity receives complete payment against the sales. You entered into sales service, you recorded it to sales journal, and then you recorded it in the debtors. The person gives you cash or check, and then your sales cycle is complete, revenue cycle. Order from customer, you process the order, you generated invoice, you delivered the goods, customer receives the delivery, you enter that sale transaction in your books, you receive the payment, you use the cash again to purchase more goods. This is what a revenue cycle is. I hope I'm clear. Okay. Now, sales is one of the most important items in the financial statements, which will have a considerable effect on the profit generated. More the selling price, more the profit. More the quantity, more the profit. If you are able to control your variable costs, because you cannot control your fixed costs. If you are able to control your variable costs, obviously more sales can result into more profits, right? It will impact closing stock as well. More is the value of closing stock, less is the cost of goods sold. You know the cost of goods sold equation: opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock is equal to cost of goods sold. So more the value of closing stock, less is cost of goods sold. If cost of goods sold is less, your sales in amount would be high. Direct relation. As per SA 315, the risk of material misstatement in case of revenue items is generally high. It is actually high. In the material misstatement, the sales could be inflated, fake bills, selling price could be inflated, there could be leakage in revenue, there could be pilferage. People in the stores department, employees in the shop, taking the material or the finished stock for their personal use. There could be pilferage, there could be damaged stock. So SA 315 tells you that the risk of material misstatement is generally high in the case of revenue. Revenue is the soul of the business. This is the most impacted area where the risk of material misstatement could be high. A part of the year-end audit of an entity's financial statements, auditors test sales, transactions in the accounts, internal controls over those transactions. How are the internal controls? To ensure that the entity is not materially misstating its revenues or accounts receivable. So the debtors are always related to credit sales. You know that. The revenues or accounts receivable, if misstated, that is not true and fair position. If they are misstated and materially misstated, not true and fair. Okay. So before auditor starts with his audit program, there are some considerations the auditor needs to take care of. Okay, what are those considerations? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 considerations. I've taken up them one by one. First, auditor needs to obtain a clear understanding about the organization and its revenue centers. What are revenue centers? What are revenue centers? Basically, the areas from where the entity can generate revenue. In the case of Tea and Cookies Private Limited, what were the revenue centers? Sale of tea, sale of other items, that is operating revenue. Other revenue, like Shyamji had given that particular stall area to one of his associates. Other revenue, that rent. This is also an area of revenue. This is also a revenue center. Revenue center are those areas in the organization, not physical areas, basically those you would say items which generate or which have the responsibility of generating more and more revenue for the organization. So what are revenue centers? Managers of revenue centers have responsibility for generating more and more revenue. These managers usually have the authority to determine the prices of goods sold. ना डीलर है उसको कितना डिस्काउंट दे सकते हैं, किसी डीलर को कितना डिस्काउंट दे सकते हैं, and those dealers whom we don't want to give discount. So they have this responsibility of determining the prices and increasing the revenues. Revenue center managers are held responsible for the volume of sales, marketing, sales and marketing. Different areas divided. This is the employee of the year. You will find in banking and insurance companies or in big MNCs. Employee of the year, sales. In insurance companies, how many policies did you sell? In banking companies, how many loans, how many accounts did you open? So they have these managers, they are held responsible for the volume of sale. A marketing department or geographical region are the examples of revenue centers. For example, in the north, ठंड पड़ती है, the climate usually gets cold during the winters. So woolen stuff. If they have a woolen, they have their factory outlet or a showroom with woolen items. That is a geographical sales center. Woolen items will be sold, will get consumed in huge number. Down south, Chennai, Kerala, where the winters are not that actually cool, but there the demand for cotton, silk is much higher. So you cannot assume to sell wool over there. Like you cannot expect from a fish to crawl up a tree. and an elephant or a monkey or any other mammal to swim in water like a fish. The same way, down south, we have silk, we have cotton, that could be different geographical market. North, different geographical market. So you can differentiate accordingly. So auditor needs to obtain a clear understanding about the type of services or products the entity provides. So be with me, faster. Tea and Cookies Limited, Private Limited is doing business with what products? Come on. Tea and Cookies Limited, Private Limited is dealing in what products? And we have to understand the demand, the market demand for the services of those products. Major selling product or service. So, what is the major selling product in Tea and Cookies Private Limited? Major selling product. Come on. Come up with your answers. What is the major selling product with Tea and Cookies Private Limited? As an auditor, I have to understand about the organization and its revenue centers. Yes, Himanshu, Tea and Cookies, very good. FMCG, trading and unit items, yes. And the major product is tea. The major product is tea. Introduction of new products or service line. For example, Tea and Cookies Private Limited comes up with chocolate flavored tea, rose flavored tea. Masala teas are common, right? Strawberry flavored tea, lemon teas, green teas. So there could be some introduction of some new products by the company. Have some new products been introduced by the company? I'll inquire about this also. Discontinuance of products or services. So I'm really sorry. Tea and Cookies Private Limited, Tea and Cookies Private Limited, initially Shyamji had started the business along with making tea as well. Now they have discontinued with that service. Tea and Cookies Private Limited is not into the business of making tea. They have discontinued with that. Who are the major customers? So customers in the nearby areas, which companies use their tea, which dealers, further distributors use their tea to deal in that area, to do their business in that area, major customers. And what are the sales term with Tea and Cookies Private Limited? What is the credit period? They do credit sales for 1 month credit period, 2 month credit periods. And what is the quantum of cash sales? I had to get a ratio. Kitni cash karte hain, kitni credit karte hain, daily basis, monthly basis, fortnightly, weekly, annually. I have to get the idea of this, right? Next, an auditor needs to obtain an understanding of the management control or internal control in respect of sales process. Whether segregation of duties exists, who is taking the order, who is packing the order, who is recording, who is delivering, who is getting the payment, checking the credit limit if applicable, to which of our customers we have fixed credit limits. We can sell to this company up to credit limit of 1 lakh. As soon as they purchase tea from us for rupees 1 lakh in a week, for further purchases, for further sales, we'll tell them to clear the previous balance, because this is a credit limit fixed between you and us. After 1 lakh, you will have to clear the previous balance, then only we'll supply you the next lot. So you have to check the credit limit for the major customers. Who checks this? Who has the authority? Who has the authorities to record sales order? Who raises the sales invoice? When and how are goods delivered or dispatched? Who collects and records the amount received from debtors? The whole cycles, revenue cycle is over there in the form of questions. Who ensures that the risk and rewards are transferred to the customer? Risk and rewards, Sale of Goods Act, Contract Act. Risk and rewards are transferred to the customer. Ownership as well as possession. How the sales have been recognized in a system, whether they have been recognized Forgotten, omitted, how have they been recognized? Credit, cash. So the internal controls over revenue cycle. An auditor tests the controls the entity has set up for the sales cycle to determine how strong and reliable they are. So this is testing the internal controls. In the previous point, we asked about what are the internal controls. Now testing their strength and reliability. Can we rely upon those controls? If they are strong and operating effectively, the auditor can reduce the extent of substantive testing. What is substantive testing? What are substantive procedures? I'll check the inventory. Take me to the godown. Let me see the stock statement. How many packages of tea you have? Show me the invoices. This is substantive testing. If the controls are strong and operating effectively, the auditor can reduce the extent of substantive testing because he can rely upon those controls. But if there are any deficiencies in the internal control, that shall be communicated as per Essay 265, Chapter 9, Audit of Financial Statement Items. What was the use of essay in this? You got Essay 265. See, this is the beauty of audit. While writing answers in your exams, if you come up with the answer on sale of products and services, you write invoice check kar lena, or aap internal controls check kar lena, or aap debtors check kar lena. But the student who gives a reference of Essay 265, sir, if you find any deficiencies in the internal control, that should be communicated as per Essay 265. Communication of deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance. You cracked your answer. You will get good marks. This is the beauty of writing answers in audit. But if you are writing general answer, you are in the category of those students who are all writing general answers in their own language. One reference to standards on auditing, reference to Companies Act, reference to accounting standards, and you increase the strength of your answer to get more than average marks, good marks. Common internal controls over sales cycle include pre-numbered sales invoices. There should be pre-numbered sale invoices. Usually they get the sales invoices book printed now in their software so that they cannot alter the invoices as per their choice. Proper authority for approval of orders, execution of sales order, customer purchase order authorization over certain limit, and authorization over receivable write-offs. Receivable write-offs means bad debts. Who has that authority to claim, yes, now we are not going to receive money, dub gaya yahan paisa. Claim it as bad debt, writing off the receivables. So we have to check this, the strength of these controls. Okay. The auditor selects a random sample. Chapter of sampling, audit sampling you have done. The auditor selects a random sample of transactions and examines the related customer purchase orders, invoices, customer statements to ensure that the control being tested is a numbered sales invoice. The numbering has not been tampered with. The integrity is maintained. He is walking through the whole cycle, sampling of certain orders. This will enable him to determine the NTE, nature, timing, and extent of his substantive procedures to be applied. So he would check the numbers in a particular section in the invoice book or e-copies are accounted for and none of the invoices is missing. If one of the invoices is missing, where the hell is that invoice? Whether that sales has been recorded in the financial statements or not. And if not, the invoice is missing. There is omission of that sales. Material misstatement. Where are the proceeds from that sales? Did we receive any cash or check? Sales fraud. Performing substantive audit procedures is a must. I told you what are substantive audit procedures. I gave you examples. We have done it chapter 4 as well. Substantive analytical procedures. The previous chapter, chapter 8, you did. Trend analysis. Now, this is something which you will do sitting in your office or in the manager's office under AC. Show me this documents. This is something which you will do from documents. Trend analysis. What has been the trend? You can see the annual trend or the monthly trend as well. When were the sales high? When were the sales low? When were the sales common, uniform? You can compare with the previous year as well. So in the previous year during Diwali season, the sales were high, or in the winter season, the sales of tea were really high, tea bags. And in this season, the sales actually in amount are really high, but not in the number of December in the month of winter season. Professional skepticism, questioning mind. What happened? In winters, usually the sale of tea is high. Why is it that it is uniform throughout the year, different from the previous year? We'll go in depth now. You found a point, you'll go in depth now. Trend analysis. Comparison with previous accounting period, taken care of. Category-wise sales analysis. Green tea, fruit flavor tea, chocolate tea, normal tea, masala tea, confectionaries. Category-wise sales analysis. Any analysis that the auditor may find relevant, and most important of all, building a sales expectation and comparing it with the client's sales records. We build our sales expectation that this year, this particular moment of time, the sales would have been high, like in winters. And we checked with the client's sales records. The sales were not as per the expectation. What is the reason? The auditor should know the selling price of the products or services over the year. Were they uniform or there were any changes? Monthly average sales price per product or service, and what is the discount policy of the company? We have an example over here. For a manufacturing company, if the average sales price of the product X is rupees 10 and 1500 units were sold in that month, auditor expects the sale would be 15,000, but obvious 10 rupees per product price, 1500 units sold, normal multiplication 15,000. The auditor should compare this figure with the client's data and see what they have recorded against product X. Auditor should consider discussing variances. If it was 14,000, there could be discount. You should ask of the management, was this a discount? Or it has been recorded as 14,000 only. Recorded wrongly because there was a variation between his expectation and what was actually recorded. The auditor will have to also identify and understand how the entity accounts for their sale discounts and sales return in the accounting system, in the system software, and how those affect the gross sales. What is the policy of the organization, Tea and Cookies Private Limited? What is their policy with respect to discounts, with respect to sales return, and how the recognition and presentation of these items affects their gross sales recorded. Auditor needs to know that, and this is something which varies from organization to organization. Right? Okay, that's all for today. This was a brief of auditor's considerations and what procedures would he resort to. In the next class, we will take up with one by one audit procedures in brief. We have already discussed many procedures. They'll be just repeating, but from examination point of view, that is really important, and we'll take up all the assertions with respect to sales, with respect to indirect income. And we will start with our expenses portion also, purchases and all other, and we will finish our profit and loss account. Today's session was important from the point of view of clearing basics as well as building a ground. Now we have devoted much time to the basics in today's session. It will not take much time for us to understand the concepts with respect to each and every element. You will see sales, every kind of assertion you will be able to crack easily. Purchases, you will be able to crack easily. Other expenses. So in the next session, we will finish with our assertions and audit of items of financial statements part profit and loss. We have discussed the sales part in brief today. We'll start with the audit procedures on sales part with respect to the assertions, and we'll finish it. Any doubts till now? I'm here for the next 5 minutes. Any doubts? I'll clear it. Let me see the queries. Yes, Bindu, I'll upload the notes by tonight or by tomorrow morning, but please be with me. These notes, I have taken them from your study material only, but just presented in a manner so that you are able to relate to what you are studying, right? So if you want to study, I'll ask you to study from your study mat as well. I'll upload the notes for sure, but before coming for the next session on Saturday, it will be great if you could read the part of profit and loss from your study material. And the activity which we did today, the questions which I asked you today in the activity in that game, you will find it on page number 3 or 4 of your study material. All the questions which I asked you today relating to assertions in that team activity, team competition, you'll find it on the 3rd or 4th page of your study material. Go through that, as well as just give it a read. No need to understand the concept if you're finding it hard. Just give it a read, whatever you find in the statement of profit and loss assertions. This part is at the end of the chapter. Before coming for the next session, and you'll see, you'll be able to grasp the concepts really well and in an easy manner. Okay? Bindu is sharing emoji. Bindu is like shocked. Sir, this is in the study material. The questions you asked, yeah, that they are in the study material. So in a way, by the way of an activity, you covered one of the topics of your study material only. There was something which I was cooking from my mind that was there in the study material, and by the view of an activity, we covered one topic from your syllabus. So any queries? Or should we conclude with the session? Should I bid good night? Okay, fine guys. Take care. Good night. Meet you on Saturday. Bye-bye.